The GPS on Riley Chen's phone died 3 blocks ago, leaving her squinting at house numbers in the twilight of Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Her ancient Toyota Camry coughed black smoke as she rolled past mansions that could house entire apartment buildings. The insulated bag on her passenger seat contained someone's $50 sushi order, and at this rate, it would be cold before she found the address. 347 Astor Street. There. A 3-story brownstone with black iron gates and security cameras that tracked her approach like predator eyes. Riley pulled up to the call box, her car shuddering into an embarrassing idle. "Delivery from Tanaka Sushi?" she said, forcing brightness into her voice. The kind that said she hadn't been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight, that her nursing school finals weren't in 5 days, that she wasn't surviving on 4 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. The speaker crackled. Around back. Service entrance. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. A man in a black suit stood waiting at the rear gate, his posture military straight, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses despite the fading light. He looked less like household staff and more like someone who could break her in half without messing up his tie. "ID," he said. Riley handed over her driver's license, watching as he scanned it with a device that looked far more sophisticated than anything she'd seen at other deliveries. He finally nodded. "Follow me. Don't touch anything." She grabbed the insulated bag and followed him through a back entrance that opened into a kitchen bigger than her entire studio apartment. Marble countertops, commercial-grade appliances, and a chandelier that probably cost more than her car. But what caught her attention was the tension hanging in the air like smoke. A woman in chef's white stood by the stove, arms crossed. "He won't even look at it. I've tried everything. Pasta, rice, soup, even his favorites. He just pushes it away." "How long?" A man's voice, deep and edged with barely controlled fear. 4 days now. Maybe 5 bites total. He's getting weaker, Mr. DeLuca. If this continues, we'll need to consider the hospital again. Riley's nurse training kicked in automatically. 4 days with minimal food intake? That was dangerous, especially for a child. The security guard cleared his throat. "Delivery, sir." Riley stepped forward and froze. The man standing in the center of the kitchen commanded the space like gravity itself bent around him. Tall, maybe 6'3", wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His hair was black, touched with silver at the temples, and his face looked carved from stone. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Dark, almost black, and currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "How old are you?" he asked abruptly. "I'm sorry?" "Your age." 26. She had no idea why that mattered for a sushi delivery. "You study medicine." His eyes had caught the corner of her textbook visible in her bag. "Nursing school?" "Yes, but I don't see what—" "My son hasn't eaten in 4 days." DeLuca's voice remained level, controlled, but Riley heard the desperation underneath. "He's 12 years old. He has autism, severe food aversions, and every specialist I've brought into this house has failed." Riley's stomach tightened. "Sir, I'm just delivering sushi. If your son needs medical attention, what he needs is someone who sees him as a person instead of a problem to solve." DeLuca moved closer. 5 minutes. Come upstairs, meet my son. If you can't help, you leave with an extra $100, if you can." He paused. "Name your price." This was insane. Riley had 3 more deliveries to complete, and exactly 0 experience with autistic children beyond a single pediatric rotation. But something in the way he said, "my son," made her hesitate. "I'm not a specialist," Riley said carefully. "I'm not even a nurse yet. Someone who hasn't given up before they've even tried. That's more than I've had in 6 months." Riley looked at the sushi getting colder in her hands and thought about her bank account balance, her mounting student loans, and the fact that she'd skipped lunch to afford gas. 5 minutes, she heard herself say. "But if I think he needs a hospital? We call an ambulance." No arguments. Something that might have been respect flickered across DeLuca's face. "Agreed." He led her through hallways that belonged in a museum. They stopped outside a door covered in hand-drawn pictures. Spaceships, planets, mathematical equations written in neat, careful handwriting. "His name is Marco," DeLuca said quietly. "He doesn't like to be touched without warning. He doesn't make eye contact. Sometimes he doesn't speak for days. And right now, He's scared because he knows his body is breaking down, but he can't force himself to eat. The raw pain in his voice cracked something open in Riley's chest. "Let me meet him," Riley said. The bedroom was exactly what Riley expected from a 12-year-old obsessed with space. Glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, NASA posters, a telescope by the window. But in the center, curled up in a beanbag chair, was Marco. He was small for 12. Too small. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and his skin had a grayish undertone that made Riley's clinical alarm bells scream. He wore headphones and his eyes were fixed on a tablet showing footage from the International Space Station. He didn't acknowledge their presence. "Marco," DeLuca said gently. "Someone's here to meet you?" No response. The boy's fingers tapped against his leg in a rhythmic pattern. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Riley knelt down about 5 feet away from him, making herself smaller, less threatening. She didn't try to get his attention, didn't speak his name, didn't invade his space. Instead, she pulled out her phone and opened her own space app, the one she used to de-stress between brutal study sessions. She found a live feed of Earth from orbit and turned up the volume just loud enough for the ambient sounds of the space station to drift across the room. The sounds were gentle, mechanical hums, the occasional voice of an astronaut speaking in calm, measured tones, the kind of predictable, structured audio that wouldn't overwhelm sensitive ears. Marco's tapping paused. Just for a second, then one finger moved to the edge of his headphones, lifting them slightly to let the new sounds in. "The cupola module," Riley said softly, still not looking directly at him, keeping her gaze on her own screen. "Best view in the solar system. 7 windows. The astronauts say watching Earth from up there makes all your problems feel small. Makes everything that seems impossible down here feel manageable when you see it from that perspective." The tapping resumed, but slower. The pattern had changed too. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, pause. A different rhythm entirely. He was processing, adapting, responding to her presence without the pressure of direct interaction. Riley glanced at the untouched plate of pasta. The noodles were touching the edge of the plate, creating a pattern that probably felt chaotic to Marco's brain. "I brought sushi," she said. "California rolls. Very precise. Everything separated. Rice, cucumber, avocado, crab, all in perfect lines." She opened the container, arranging the pieces with deliberate spacing. 6 pieces, 2 rows of 3. Symmetrical. Marco's head tilted slightly. His eyes flicked toward the food for just a second. "The astronauts have to eat carefully too," Riley continued. "Everything vacuum-sealed, portion-controlled, precise. Because up there, even a crumb floating away can damage equipment." She adjusted one piece. "Order matters in space. Structure matters." The tapping slowed. "They also have to eat on a schedule. Not because anyone forces them, but because the body needs fuel to work." She picked up a piece with chopsticks, demonstrating small amounts, regular intervals. That's how they survive. Marco's fingers stopped tapping entirely. Then slowly, he lowered his tablet, his eyes fixed on the sushi. "The ISS completes an orbit every 92 minutes, he said. His voice was quiet, slightly monotone, but clear. "That's 15.5 orbits per day." Riley's heart jumped. "That's exactly right. You know your orbital mechanics. I know a lot about space." Marco's fingers found a new pattern. "I've read 17 books about the ISS. Watched 432 hours of footage. 432 hours. That's impressive dedication." Marco's eyes finally lifted to meet hers for just a fraction of a second. "Most people think I'm weird. Most people don't understand that different brains process information in different ways," Riley said. "Your brain probably sees patterns that other people miss. That's not weird. That's a gift." Marco reached out, his hand hovering over the sushi. His fingers trembled. "The texture might feel wrong," Riley said gently. "The rice might be too sticky. That's okay. You don't have to eat it. But I need to eat something." Marco's voice cracked. "I know that. My dad's scared. I can feel everyone being scared around me. And that makes the food even harder." Riley's throat tightened. "What if we tried something different? What if we stopped thinking about it as eating and started thinking about it as an experiment, like astronaut training?" Marco's hand stopped trembling. "An experiment?" Astronauts train their bodies to adapt. They start with small tests, baby steps. Riley moved one piece closer. Test 1. Touch it. That's all. Just see what the texture feels like. No requirement to eat it. Marco stared at the sushi. Then, with visible courage, he reached out and touched the rice. His face contorted, but he didn't pull away. Sticky, he said. Slightly warm. Compressed. Good data. Test complete. Riley moved the piece back. Test 2. Smell it. Marco lifted the sushi to his nose. Rice. Vinegar. Seaweed. It's not bad. Excellent observation. Test 3. Touch it to your lips. Just touch. Marco's hand shook as he brought the sushi to his mouth. He pressed it against his closed lips, held it there, then pulled away. My brain says danger, but it's not danger. Your brain is trying to protect you. But sometimes it gets overprotective. Riley paused. Test 4. What do you think test 4 should be? Marco looked at her, really looked, for a full 2 seconds. Small bite, just the rice part. Because rice is predictable. Sounds like a solid hypothesis. Wanna try? The silence stretched. Riley could hear DeLuca's breath, short and sharp with hope and fear. She could hear Mrs. Chen somewhere in the hallway, probably listening. She could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. This moment mattered, not just for Marco's physical health, but for his father's sanity, for the fragile trust being built between them all. Marco opened his mouth. His hand trembled violently as he brought the sushi closer. He paused with the rice barely an inch from his lips, his whole body tense like he was preparing to jump into cold water. Then, with visible effort, he placed the tiniest amount of rice on his tongue. His face went through a dozen expressions in rapid succession. Disgust at the unfamiliar texture, determination to push through, fear that he'd gag or vomit, triumph that he'd actually done it. He chewed once, the motion mechanical and forced. Twice, his jaw working like it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. His throat worked as he swallowed hard, the bob of his Adam's apple visible. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved, nobody breathed. Then Marco's eyes opened fully, meeting Riley's with something like surprised pride. I did it, he breathed, his voice barely, audible but filled with wonder. Like he'd just discovered he could fly. You did, Riley said, fighting to keep her own voice steady. Test 4 complete. How do you feel? Tired, but... Marco looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers like he was seeing them for the first time. Not scared anymore. Just tired. That's adrenaline leaving your system. That was brave, Marco. The boy's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Can we try test 5 tomorrow? Tomorrow sounds perfect. Marco nodded and returned to his tablet. Riley stood slowly, backing toward the door where DeLuca stood like a statue. 5 days, he said once they were in the hallway. His voice was hoarse. 5 days of specialists. And you got him to take a bite in 5 minutes. It's not sustainable. He needs regular therapy, consistent support. Name your price. DeLuca turned to face her. Whatever you want. $100,000, $200,000. Just help him. Sir, I don't think... I know what you're going to say. You're not qualified. You have school. You have a life. His hand ran through his hair. But he responded to you. Please. She should say no. This was clearly a man with dangerous connections. But Marco's face flashed in her mind. That moment of triumph when he swallowed. I have finals in 5 days, Riley heard herself say. After that, I have a 2-week break. I'll hire tutors to help you study here. You'll have your own room. I can't move in with a stranger. Then come for a few hours each day. Whatever works. I'll pay you $5,000 a week. Riley's mouth went dry. Why me? Really? Because you saw my son. Not a diagnosis. You saw Marco. His jaw tightened. That's rarer than you think. 2 weeks. Trial basis. I help Marco through this crisis. You pay for my last semester of nursing school. After that, we reassess. Deal. They shook hands. Riley felt the tremor running through him. The terror of a father who'd been watching his child disappear. She drove away with $500 cash in her pocket and a feeling that her life had just tilted onto a different axis entirely. Riley showed up the next day with a backpack full of supplies. The same security guard, Vincent, he introduced himself, met her at the service entrance. Mr. DeLuca is in a meeting. He said to take you straight up to Marco. They walked through the mansion in daylight, and Riley noticed details she'd missed. Security cameras everywhere, doors with keypad locks, windows with bulletproof glass, and men in suits who looked like military contractors. "Vincent," she said carefully, "what exactly does Mr. DeLuca do?" "He invests. Manages properties." Vincent's tone was neutral. "And he takes care of people who are loyal to him." The way he said, "takes care of people," made Riley's skin prickle. Marco opened the door immediately. "You came back." "I said I would." Riley smiled. "Ready for test 5? They spent an hour testing. A small piece of cheese. A single grape. A corner of toast. Marco rated each one with scientific precision. He managed to eat about a quarter of what Riley brought, more than he'd eaten in 5 days combined. "Excellent work today," Riley said as she packed up. The door burst open. A man in a dark suit stood there, his face flushed. "Vincent, Mr. DeLuca needs you. Now." Situation in the West Wing. Vincent's entire posture shifted. "Marco, stay here with Miss Chen. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except your father or me." He looked at Riley. "You hear anything unusual, get in the closet with Marco and stay quiet." Riley's heart hammered. "What's happening?" But Vincent was already gone. Marco stood frozen, his breathing quickening. "Situation means people with guns. It always means guns. Marco. Last time there was a situation, someone shot through the window." Marco pointed to a spot on the wall that had been perfectly repaired. There was blood on the carpet. "Hey." Riley moved closer. "Look at me. We're going to use our astronaut training. When there's an emergency on the space station, what do astronauts do?" "They." Marco's hands shook. "They follow protocol." "Right. Step 1. Assess the situation. We're in your room. The door is locked. We're safe for now. Step 2, Marco whispered. Secure your environment." He moved to his closet, pulling Riley with him. Inside was a space lined with emergency supplies. Bottled water, protein bars, a first aid kit. "Your father prepared this," Riley said quietly. "He prepares for everything. Because bad things keep happening." From somewhere in the house, she heard shouting. A door slamming. Then silence. Marco rocked slightly, his breathing fast. "Count with me," Riley said. "Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. They breathed together in the darkness. 1 minute, 2, 5. Finally, a knock. "Marco, it's me," DeLuca's voice. Marco scrambled out and unlocked the door. His father entered, and Riley saw what she'd missed yesterday. This man was dangerous. His shirt was untucked, his knuckles were bruised, and there was a coldness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Then he saw Marco, and the coldness melted. "You okay, kid? We did breathing exercises. Like astronauts." "Smart." DeLuca's eyes moved to Riley. "You stayed with him." "Of course I stayed." Riley stood, anger cutting through her fear. What the hell just happened? Business disagreement? That required guns? DeLuca's jaw tightened. "I need to speak with Miss Chen alone." Marco retreated to his beanbag chair, putting on his headphones but watching carefully. Once in the hallway, DeLuca leaned against the wall. "You weren't supposed to be here for that." "What was it?" "A reminder that my world is complicated and dangerous." He met her eyes. "I understand if you want to walk away." Riley thought about her normal life. $40,000 in debt, 80-hour work weeks, a studio apartment with a broken heater. Then she thought about Marco in that closet, breathing exercises in the dark. "What do you do?" she asked. "Really? You don't want to know?" "Yes, I do." DeLuca studied her. "I manage resources for people who can't use traditional banking systems. I resolve disputes that can't go through legal channels." Riley had seen enough gunshot wounds to recognize the careful language of organized crime. "You're in the Mafia. That's a crude term, but not inaccurate. And you brought me into this house, with your son, who has already been traumatized by violence, which is exactly why I need someone like you." DeLuca pushed off the wall. "Marco's mother died when he was 3. Car accident. Or what looked like one. I've made enemies. People who would hurt a child to hurt me. So yes, we live in a fortress, because the alternative is burying another person I love." The raw pain in his voice stopped Riley's anger. "I can't promise you'll be completely safe," DeLuca continued. "I can promise protection. And enough money to change your life. But I'll understand if you'd rather walk away. Riley looked at Marco's door. I'm not walking away. But we need new ground rules. Surprise flickered across DeLuca's face. First, Riley said, Marco doesn't witness any more business disagreements. Ever. Agreed. Second, I need honesty about threats. If something's coming, I need to know. I can work with that. Third, you start therapy. Real therapy. That boy is hyper-aware of your emotional state. If you're carrying trauma, he's carrying it too. DeLuca's expression hardened. I don't do therapy. Then we're done here. Riley turned toward the stairs. Wait. His hand caught her arm. You're serious? Completely. They stared at each other. Pride versus love. Control versus vulnerability. Fine, he said finally. I'll find someone. I'll find someone. Someone who can't be bought off or intimidated. A ghost of a smile crossed DeLuca's face. You're bossy for someone who drives a car held together with duct tape, and you're a crime lord who can't get his son to eat vegetables. We all have our weaknesses. The smile widened. Deal. Anything else? Yes. Call me Riley. Miss Chen makes me feel like a Victorian governess. Riley. He tested the name. Antonio. Only my enemies call me DeLuca. They shook hands again. This time, the tremor wasn't fear. It was something else. Something that made Riley's stomach flip. I should get back to Marco. I'll have Vincent drive you home. It's not safe for you to take public transportation anymore. Why not? Because you were seen entering this house. By now, everyone who watches me knows you're connected to Marco. That makes you a target. The weight of that settled over Riley. She'd become part of his inner circle. And now she was someone worth targeting. What have I gotten myself into? She whispered. Antonio's expression was almost sympathetic. Something that doesn't let go easily. But I promise you, Riley, I protect what's mine, and you just became mine to protect. The possessive way he said mine should have scared her. Instead, it sent warmth pooling in her stomach. Over the next week, Riley fell into a routine. She'd attend morning classes, then Vincent would pick her up in a black SUV. She'd spend 3 hours with Marco, working on food experiments. Then Antonio would appear, sometimes with blood she didn't want to think about, always transforming the second he saw his son. She met the rest of the household. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper who'd worked for the family 20 years. Dr. Castellano, Marco's pediatrician who made house calls. And the security team, Vincent, Marcus, and James, who treated Riley with careful respect. Marco improved daily. He was eating regular meals now, still particular but actually nourishing his body. He'd started talking more, explaining scientific concepts with enthusiasm, and he'd started trusting her with his fears. Do you think my brain is broken? Marco asked one afternoon while they sorted M and Ms by color. I think your brain works differently, but different doesn't mean broken. Different means unique, special. Kids at school say I'm a freak. Riley's hand stilled. You go to school? Used to. Before someone tried to take me. Now I have tutors. Another trauma layered on top of everything else. The kids who called you a freak, Riley said. Did they know you can calculate orbital velocities in your head? Did they know you've memorized the periodic table? No. Then they didn't really know you. They just knew the surface. They didn't see the brilliant, brave, amazing person underneath. Marco was quiet. Then, do you see him? Every single day. When she left that afternoon, Antonio was waiting. He'd started doing that lately, appearing as she finished, walking her to the car. Always professional. But there was something in the way he looked at her. He asked about school today, Riley said as they descended the stairs. Antonio's expression darkened. I handled those kids. Handled how? Legal ways, mostly. Their families found better opportunities in other cities. Riley should have been horrified. Instead, she felt satisfaction. Good. You're getting comfortable here. It wasn't a question. Is that a problem? No. Antonio's voice was quiet. It's dangerous. They'd reached the car. Vincent was already behind the wheel. Dangerous for who? Riley asked. For both of us. Antonio's hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. You're supposed to be Marco's caretaker. Nothing more. Is that what I am? That's what you need to be. But his eyes said something different. Riley climbed into the car before she did something stupid. Through the window, she watched Antonio turn back, his shoulders tight with restraint. Vincent caught her eyes in the typeshin mirror. He's not what you think. What do you think I think? That he's a monster. That he chose this life. Vincent pulled out. Antonio De Luca inherited a dying empire at 22. His father was murdered. His brother disappeared. He had two choices: take control, or watch everyone loyal to his family get slaughtered. He chose survival. Why are you telling me this? Because you look at him different. And he looks at you different than he's looked at anyone since Marco's mother. Vincent's eyes were serious. That's going to paint a target on you. You should know what you're getting into. I already know. Do you? What happens when reality crashes in? When you have to choose between your conscience and the people under this roof? Riley had no answer. The crash came 3 days later. Riley was celebrating that Marco had eaten an entire sandwich when Vincent burst through the door. We need to move. Now. His gun was drawn. Marco's face went white. No, Marco. Emergency protocol. Vincent was already moving him toward the closet. Antonio said to get you both to the safe room. Both? Riley repeated. Your family now. That means protection. The safe room had reinforced walls, security monitors, supplies, and weapons. So many weapons. Marco curled into a corner, hands over his ears. Riley sat beside him. On the monitors, she watched men in suits take defensive positions, watched Antonio appear with a gun he handled with terrifying competence, watched cars pull up, men emerging with weapons. This is my fault, Marco whispered. If I wasn't broken, Dad wouldn't have to worry about me. Marco, no. I heard Uncle Vincent. He said I was a liability, that the other families see Dad as weak because of me. Riley's chest tightened. Your father doesn't see you as a liability. He sees you as his son, his world. Then why does everyone keep trying to hurt us? Gunfire erupted. Actual gunfire, Marco screamed. Riley pulled him, close, not caring that he usually didn't like touch, just needing to shield him. On the monitors, Riley watched Antonio move through his home like a predator. Efficient, precise, terrifying. When it was over less than 5 minutes, 3 men lay on the ground, and the enemies were retreating. But the worst part was watching Antonio's face. The emptiness in his eyes, the mechanical way he checked each fallen enemy. The safe room door opened. Antonio stood there, gun in hand, blood spattered across his shirt. Everyone okay? Marco nodded, still shaking. Riley? She wanted to say yes. Instead, she ran to the corner and vomited. Antonio's hands pulled her hair back. A cool cloth appeared on her neck. His voice so gentle. Breathe. Just breathe. There were gunshots. With Marco here. I know. I'm sorry. You said you'd protect him from this. I am protecting him. This is what protection looks like in my world. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Riley turned to face him. Blood on his shirt, death in his eyes, yet his hands were gentle. I can't do this, she whispered. Something crumbled in Antonio's expression. I understand. Vincent will take you home. No. I can't watch him suffer like this. I can't watch Marco live in terror. Riley's voice strengthened. I'm saying I move in. Full time. Round the clock. Antonio's brows furrowed. What? I'm here for every crisis, every nightmare, every moment he needs someone. You want real help? You get me. All of me. Riley met his gaze. And I want $20,000 a week. Antonio's eyes widened. That's more than most people make in 6 months. And you're asking me to live in a war zone. To be a target. To give up my normal life. Riley held firm. You said you protect what's yours. Prove it. Make me worth protecting. A smile, small and disbelieving, crossed Antonio's face. You're insane. Probably. Do we have a deal? Antonio looked at Marco, still huddled in the corner, then back to Riley. Deal, he said quietly. But once you're in, you're in. There's no casual exit. You understand? I understand that boy needs stability. And I'm going to give it to him. Even if it costs you everything. Riley thought about her safe, normal, desperately lonely life. Even then, she said. Antonio's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Why not both? He laughed, surprised and genuine. Then he stepped back. I'll have Mrs. Chen prepare a room. Pack whatever you need. Vincent will help you move tomorrow. Tomorrow's fast. The Salvatore family just declared war. Tomorrow might already be too late. Riley swallowed hard. But when she looked at Marco, saw the hope in his eyes, she knew what she'd agreed to. She'd agreed to save a child, no matter the cost. Even if that cost was her own heart. Riley moved into the mansion with 2 suitcases and a growing sense that she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. Mrs. Chen showed her to a suite on the 2nd floor. It was bigger than her entire apartment. Mr. DeLuca had it prepared specially, Mrs. Chen said. But this wasn't home. Home didn't have bulletproof windows and panic buttons under the nightstand. Riley spent her first week learning the rhythms of Antonio's world. The quiet breakfast meetings, the calls at 3 a.m., the way Marco's eyes tracked his father, always watching for danger. And she learned about Marco. Really learned. Not just his autism, but him. The boy who could recite pi to 100 digits but couldn't remember to brush his teeth. Who understood quantum physics but struggled with why people said things they didn't mean. Who loved his father with fierce loyalty. Do you think Dad is a bad person? Marco asked one afternoon in the garden. Riley chose her words carefully. I think your dad makes hard choices in impossible situations. That's not an answer. You're right. Riley watched a cranberry, butterfly land on a flower. I think your dad has done bad things, but he's done them to protect you. Does that make him bad or human? Marco was quiet. Uncle Vincent says Dad used to be different. Before my mom died. He used to smile more. Now he just manages threats. Grief changes people. Do you think he'll ever smile again? Really smile? Riley thought about the way Antonio looked at his son. I think he smiles every time he sees you happy. Maybe he's forgotten how to smile for himself. But he hasn't forgotten how to smile for you. Marco tilted his head. You make him smile too. When you're arguing with him. His eyes light up from inside. Riley's cheeks heated. I think you're imagining things. I don't imagine things. I observe patterns. And the pattern is, Dad is different when you're around. Less heavy. Before Riley could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Antonio. Asterisk. Need you in my office. Now. Asterisk. She found Antonio standing at his window, posture rigid. Vincent was there with 2 other men. What's wrong? Riley asked. Antonio didn't turn. The Salvatores sent a message. They know about you. They know you live here. They know what you mean to this family. Riley's blood went cold. What kind of message? Vincent showed her a photo. Riley's old apartment. Her car. And written across her windshield in red paint. Asterisk. The nurse is next. Asterisk. Oh God, Riley whispered. They're trying to draw me out. Antonio said, eerily calm. They think you're my weakness. Aren't I? Antonio finally turned. Yes. Which is why you're not leaving this house until the Salvatore problem is handled. Handled how? You don't want to know. Yes, I do. I live here now. I deserve to know what handled means. Antonio and Vincent exchanged a look. It means war, Vincent said. Real war. Full mobilization. Blood in the streets until one side surrenders or gets wiped out. Riley's legs felt weak. Because of me? Because of greed and territory and time. Pride. Antonio corrected. You're just the excuse. If it wasn't you, it would be something else. How long will this take? Days? Weeks? Antonio moved closer. Riley, I need you to stay away from windows. Don't go outside alone. Don't leave the property. And if there's an attack, you get Marco to the safe room and don't come out until I come for you. What about you? I'll be handling business. That's not what I asked. What happens to you during this war? Something flickered in Antonio's eyes. I survive. I always survive. That's not good enough. It's all I can promise. They stared at each other. Riley's hand on his arm, his pulse strong under her fingers. The other men had gone strategically blind. Marco needs you, Riley said. I need. She stopped. You need what? Antonio's voice was barely audible. Asterisk. You. Asterisk, Riley thought. Asterisk. I need you. Asterisk. I need you to be careful, she said instead. Antonio's hand covered hers. I will be. I promise. It was a lie. They both knew it. The war came in waves. First wave, the Salvatores hit 3 of Antonio's businesses in one night. Riley watched the news with Marco. 2 dead. 5 injured. Millions in damages. Is Dad okay? Marco asked. He's fine. He wasn't at any of those locations. But Antonio came home with bruised knuckles and blood on his collar that wasn't his. He barely spoke during dinner, planning his countermove. Second wave. Antonio's retaliation was swift and surgical. Riley didn't get details, but she heard the phone calls, saw the grim satisfaction on Vincent's face. Third wave. The Salvatores changed tactics. Instead of businesses, they went after families. 2 of Antonio's soldiers had homes vandalized. Another had his car bombed, thankfully empty. Marco stopped sleeping. Riley would find him at 3 a.m., watching security cameras. I can't turn my brain off, he whispered one night. I keep thinking about all the ways they could get in. 11 different entry points. 43 possible attack vectors. Marco, you can't live in that fear. Why not? It's real. Dad pretends everything's fine, but I can see it in his eyes. He's terrified something will happen to me. Or to you. And that makes him vulnerable. Riley had no answer. Because he was right. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Riley was working with Marco when alarms started blaring. Not gentle security chimes. Full lockdown alarms. Vincent burst in. Safe room. Now. They're here. Who's here? Everyone. The Salvatores brought their full force. They're coming for Antonio. They reached the safe room as the first explosions rocked the house. Marco screamed, hands flying to his ears. Riley pulled him into the corner, wrapping herself around him like a shield. On the monitors, Riley watched hell unfold. 20, maybe 30 men in tactical gear swarming the property. Gunfire everywhere. Antonio's team fighting back with precision. But they were outnumbered. And then she saw Antonio, in the foyer, gun in each hand, face splattered with blood, fighting like a man possessed. He moved through attackers like water. But there were too many. Even she could see that. He's going to die, Marco whispered. Dad's going to die, and it's my fault because I'm the reason he can't focus. I'm the weakness. Stop. Riley grabbed Marco's face. Your father chose to love you. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing a person can do. But, no buts. Your father is fighting for you. For us. Don't dishonor that by calling it weakness. On the monitor, Antonio went down. A bullet caught him in the shoulder. Riley's scream caught in her throat. He got back up. Impossibly. He got back up and kept fighting. I have to help him, Riley heard herself say. What? No. Marco grabbed her arm. You'll die, and if I don't, he will. Riley pulled up the weapons cabinet, hands shaking as she grabbed the smallest handgun. She'd had exactly 1 session at a firing range. Riley, please. Marco's voice broke. Don't leave me alone. Riley knelt in front of him. I'm not leaving you. I'm protecting what's mine. Just like your father taught me. She kissed his forehead. Lock this door. Don't open it for anyone except your father or me. I'm scared. Me too. But sometimes being scared is how we know we're doing something that matters. She opened the door before she could change her mind. The house was a war zone. Smoke, broken furniture, bodies. Riley tried not to look at the bodies. She just focused on getting to the foyer, to Antonio. She found him backed into a corner, 4 men advancing. He was out of ammunition, holding them off with just a knife. Blood poured from his shoulder. His face was gray with blood loss. Riley didn't think. She just raised the gun, her hands shaking so badly she could barely keep it steady. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to save herself. But the image of Antonio bleeding out on his own floor overrode everything else. She closed her eyes and pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked her backward, sending her stumbling into the wall behind her. The explosion of sound was deafening, making her ears ring. The shot went wide, hitting the wall several feet from any target. But the surprise of it, a woman appearing from nowhere with a weapon, made all 4 attackers turn. And that single moment of distraction was all Antonio needed. He moved like lightning despite his injury. The knife flashed in his hand. The first man went down with a strangled gasp. The second didn't even have time to raise his weapon before Antonio was on him, the knife finding its mark with surgical precision. The third man recovered faster than the others. His gun came up, tracking toward Riley. She saw it happening in slow motion, the barrel swinging toward her chest, his finger tightening on the trigger, the certainty of her own death crystallizing in that fraction of a second. Then Antonio was there. He threw himself between them just as the gun fired. The bullet whistled past Riley's ear so close she felt the heat of it, felt the displaced air brush her skin. The sound was like thunder in the enclosed space. Antonio's momentum carried him into the third man, both of them crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs. There was a moment of struggling, of grunts, and the sound of fists connecting with flesh. Then Antonio stood, breathing hard, blood streaming from his shoulder. The fourth man took one look at his fallen comrades, at Antonio standing over them like an avenging angel, at Riley with the gun still clutched in her trembling hands, and ran. His footsteps echoed through the house, growing fainter. Suddenly, it was quiet. The alarm still blared, but the gunfire had stopped. Through the windows, Riley could hear sirens. Antonio swayed. Riley caught him before he fell. "You're insane," he breathed. "You could have been killed. So could you." Riley's hands pressed against his shoulder wound. "You're losing too much blood. We need a hospital." "No hospitals. Too many questions. You also told me you always survive." "I decided to make sure that wasn't a lie." Antonio laughed, then winced. "You're going to be the death of me, Riley Chen. Not if I can help it." Vincent appeared, limping but alive. "Salvatore's are in retreat. We won. Barely." He looked at Antonio's shoulder. "You need stitches. I'll call Dr. Castellano." "Marco," Antonio said urgently. "Where's in the safe room? Alive, unhurt." Riley kept pressure on his wound. "I need you to sit down before you pass out." "I don't pass out." He passed out. Dr. Castellano spent 3 hours patching Antonio together. Bullet removed. 14 stitches. Blood transfusion. Painkillers that Antonio refused because he needed to stay alert. Riley sat with him while he recovered, ignoring his protests that she should be with Marco. Mrs. Chen was with Marco. Right now, Antonio needed someone to make sure he didn't try to get up and resume managing his empire while bleeding through bandages. "You should have stayed in the safe room," Antonio said for the 10th time. "You should have had better backup." "I had plenty. You were outnumbered 3-1. I've faced worse odds." "That doesn't make it smart." They glared at each other. Then Antonio's expression softened. "You saved my life. You've saved mine multiple times. I figured I owed you. You don't owe me anything. You've given Marco hope, peace, a reason to engage with the world." His good hand caught hers. "You've given me something too." Riley's breath caught. "What?" "A reason to want to survive. Not just for Marco. For myself. Because every time I see you, I remember there's more to life than violence and revenge." His thumb stroked her knuckles. "You make me want to be better, to find a way out of this life." "Antonio, I know. It's impossible. I'm in too deep. I've made too many enemies. There's no retirement plan for men like me." His eyes held hers. "But maybe there's a future where Marco gets out, where he goes to college and studies astrophysics and never has to know what it's like to kill to protect what's yours. And what about you?" "I'll do what I've always done. Survive, protect. Make sure the people I love have the life I never could." Riley's throat tightened. "You deserve that life too." "No, I really don't. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on fear and blood. Men like me don't get happy endings. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption." "That's your nurse training talking." He touched her face. "But some people are too broken to fix." "I don't believe that." "You should." But even as he said it, his hand lingered. His eyes traced her face like he was memorizing it. And Riley realized this dangerous, complicated, damaged man had somehow become everything to her. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now we rebuild. The Salvatores are broken. They won't come at us again. We'll have peace for a while. Time to breathe." His hand dropped. "Time for you to decide if this is really the life you want." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you've fulfilled your contract. Marco's eating. He's stable. You could walk away. Go back to nursing school. Live a normal life." Riley's heart clenched. "Is that what you want? Me to leave? I want you to have a choice. Real choice. Not one made in crisis or fear. And if my choice is to stay?" Antonio's eyes darkened. "Then you need to understand what that means. It means accepting that I'll always have blood on my hands. That danger will always be circling. That any children we... He stopped abruptly. Any children we what? He looked away. Any children we might have someday would grow up in this world, with guards and safe rooms and constant threat. Like Marco. That's the legacy I'd be offering. Riley's mind spun. Children. He was thinking about children. With her. What if there was another way? She said slowly. There isn't. What if you left? Really left? Took Marco and disappeared. Antonio's laugh was bitter. You can't just leave the Mafia. My father tried. They killed him. My brother tried. He's been missing for 7 years. I'm assuming dead. But you have money. Resources. I could run and spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for the bullet, dragging you and Marco into that nightmare. He shook his head. No. This is the hand I was dealt. I play it or I die. There has to be another way. There isn't, which is why you should leave, Riley. Find a man who can give you the life you deserve. What if I don't want that? Then you're a fool. Maybe, Riley said. But I'm your fool. She kissed him before she could change her mind. His lips were warm, tasting like copper and painkillers and desperate hope. For a moment, he was still. Then his good arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, and he kissed her back with intensity that spoke of long-suppressed feelings finally breaking free. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Antonio's eyes were dark with want and regret. This is a mistake, he whispered. Probably. You'll regret it. Maybe. I can't promise you anything good. I don't care. Riley's hand cupped his face. I'm not asking for promises. Do you want me to stay? God, yes. Every selfish, terrible part of me wants you to stay. Wants to keep you here where I can see you, protect you, have you be the first thing I see every morning and the last thing before sleep. But, no buts. Yes or no. Do you want me? Yes. Then that's enough. We'll figure out the rest. Riley. She kissed him again, softer. Stop trying to protect me from you. I'm choosing it anyway. I'm choosing you. Antonio's arms tightened around her. You're going to destroy me. Or save you. Either way, we're in this together now. They held each other in the darkness, both damaged, both scared, both knowing this decision would change everything. But for the first time since walking into this mansion, Riley felt like she'd found where she was supposed to be, even if that place was in the arms of a killer. 6 months later, Riley sat in the garden watching Marco teach 2 younger children about butterfly metamorphosis. He was patient, kind, using the same techniques Riley had used with him. He's a natural teacher, Antonio said, settling beside her. His shoulder had healed completely. Maybe someday he'll work with kids like him. Maybe. Or maybe he'll be an astronaut, or a physicist, or anything he wants. Because he's finally free to dream. Because of you. Because of both of us. Riley leaned into his warmth. You gave him safety and love. I just helped him see it. Antonio's hand found hers. Over the past 6 months, they'd fallen into a rhythm. Riley finished nursing school. Antonio had hired security to escort her, which had raised eyebrows but kept her safe. She'd passed her boards, got her license. And then, instead of taking a hospital job, she'd started a private practice helping autistic children and their families, funded by Antonio's money, but run with her expertise. Marco was her first patient, and her proudest success. Vincent told me something interesting yesterday, Antonio said carefully. What's that? The Genovese family reached out. They're proposing a partnership, legitimate business ventures, real estate, construction, tech investments. He paused. They're offering me a way out, a way to slowly transition from criminal operations to legal ones. Riley's heart jumped. Are you going to take it? I don't know. It would take years, and there are no guarantees. My enemies wouldn't just forgive and forget, but it's possible. A real future. For us? Antonio's hand moved to her stomach, resting there gently. For our family? Riley's breath caught. She'd suspected for a week. Morning sickness, missed period, the exhaustion. But she hadn't confirmed it yet. How did you know? She whispered. I know you. The way you've been tired. The way you can't stand the smell of coffee. The way you keep touching your stomach. His eyes met hers. Are we having a baby, Riley? I think so. I haven't taken a test yet. I was scared to know for sure. Scared of what? Scared of bringing an innocent life into your world. of giving a child the same childhood Marco had. She turned to face him. But I'm more scared of not having this. Of not having you. Of not building a family with the man I love. Antonio's expression cracked. You love me? Of course I love you. I've loved you since you passed out in my arms. Maybe before that. Riley's hand covered his on her stomach. I love you. All of you. The dangerous parts. The damaged parts. The parts trying so hard to be better. All of it. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. Antonio pulled her close, careful of her stomach. I'll take the Genovese deal. Not because I think I can be redeemed, but because you deserve a life without constant fear. Because Marco deserves to go to college without bodyguards. Because our child deserves a father who comes home every night. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. He kissed her forehead. But I've survived worse odds. And now I have something to fight for that's bigger than territory or pride. I have a family. A real family. From across the garden, Marco looked up. He saw them together and smiled. A real smile. You know what he asked me yesterday? Antonio said quietly. What? He asked if you were going to be his mom for real. I told him that was up to you. Riley's eyes burned. What did he say? He said you already are. That moms are the people who stay when things get hard. Who see you at your worst and love you anyway. Antonio looked at her. He's not wrong. I do love him. Like he's my own. Then let's make it official. Antonio pulled a small box from his pocket. The velvet was worn at the edges, like he'd been carrying it for a while. Weeks, maybe. Waiting for the right moment. Inside was a ring that took Riley's breath away. Simple. Elegant. A diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the afternoon light and threw tiny rainbows across her hand. Marry me, Riley. Not because you're pregnant. Not because it's practical or convenient or the logical next step. But because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because every morning I wake up, and the first thing I think about is whether you're safe, whether you're happy, whether you know how much you mean to me. Because you've taught me that love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes any of this worthwhile. It's the only thing that makes me want to be better than what I am. His voice broke slightly on the last words. This man who commanded rooms full of dangerous criminals, who faced down enemies without flinching, who'd built an empire on fear and respect, he was nervous, vulnerable, offering her his heart with shaking hands. Riley's hands trembled as she took the ring from the box, holding it up to the light. It was perfect. Not too ostentatious, not too plain. Exactly right. You're asking me to marry a former Mafia boss who's in the middle of trying to go legitimate while raising a child with autism and having a baby? When you put it like that, it sounds insane. It is insane. She slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Like everything that had happened, the chance sushi delivery, the desperate father, the boy who needed help had all been leading to this moment. Yes. Antonio's eyes widened. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll be Marco's mom. Yes, I'll build this impossible, complicated, beautiful, absolutely terrifying life with you. She kissed him, tasting salt from tears she didn't know had fallen. Yes, to all of it. Antonio held her like she was something precious, something worth fighting for. From the garden, Marco's voice called out. Dad, Riley, come look. The monarch finally came out of its chrysalis. They walked hand in hand to where Marco stood, pointing at a butterfly that had just emerged. Its wings were crumpled and wet, not yet ready to fly, but over the next few hours, they'd dry and strengthen. And then it would fly. Just like them. Riley looked at Antonio, at Marco, at the life growing inside her. This wasn't the future she'd imagined when she delivered sushi 6 months ago. It was messier, more complicated. But it was real. And it was theirs. And sometimes, the best love stories weren't about perfection. They were about people who chose each other despite the chaos, who built something beautiful out of broken pieces, who proved that even in the darkest places, hope could bloom. That night, after Marco was asleep and Antonio had finished his last business call, Riley stood on their bedroom balcony. The city lights sparkled below, and somewhere out there, threats still existed, enemies who wanted to hurt them. But inside this house, there was safety, love, a family that had chosen each other against all odds. Antonio joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Having second thoughts? Not even a little bit. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. Possessive much? When it comes to you? Absolutely. You're mine, Riley Chen. Soon to be Riley DeLuca. And I protect what's mine. So I guess we're protecting each other. That works for me. They stood together in the darkness. Two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. A nurse and a criminal. A caretaker and a killer. A woman with nothing and a man who had everything except what mattered most. Until now. Marco's voice drifted from his room, calling out from a dream. Antonio moved to check on him, and Riley heard the quiet murmur of his voice. Soothing, gentle. The voice of a father who would burn the world down to keep his children safe. And Riley realized that was exactly what love looked like in their world. Not perfect, not pretty, but fierce and true and unbreakable. She touched her stomach where their child grew, smiled at the ring on her finger, and thought about the boy down the hall who'd taught her that healing came in unexpected forms, that family wasn't always blood, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was love someone everyone else had written off as dangerous. Antonio returned, pulling her close. He's back asleep. Bad dream about butterflies not being able to fly. We'll show him more butterflies tomorrow. Remind him that sometimes transformation takes time. Like us. Riley kissed him. Now come to bed. We have a future to plan. A legitimate future. As legitimate as it can be anyway. Antonio laughed. The sound, free and genuine. The sound of a man who'd found his way out of darkness. Who'd learned that redemption wasn't about erasing the past, it was about building a better future. They went to bed in the house that had once been a fortress, but was now a home. Where a boy who couldn't eat had learned to nourish himself. Where a man who dealt in death had learned to choose life. Where a woman broken by debt and loneliness had found purpose and love. And somewhere in the night, as three hearts beat under one roof, soon to be four, the city continued its endless rhythm. Dangerous and beautiful. Broken and healing, just like them. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.